Hello YouTube! This is my year 2020 reading wrap-up. Where should we start? I think it's a good idea to look at some stats first. I really love how Goodreads is doing this your year in books. And you can see all this fun stuff there. So yeah, let's maybe look at that first. So, in 2020 I challenged myself to read 30 books and I managed to read 32. And that is including physical books, audiobooks, comics. I don't read ebooks because I don't like them, and also I don't have a Kindle or anything. So yeah, and I don't usually borrow books because I have a dream of having my own library someday, like my home library, so I try to buy everything that I like. Overall, I read 9,213 pages and the average book length was 287 pages. Yeah, that's pretty good. I didn't read many chunkers, even though I used to, but I did some readathons last year, so I tried to cram in as many books as I could that were not that big, so maybe that's why. The shortest book was Tales of Beadle the Bard, 109 pages, but I actually had it as an audiobook. I don't know why it's showing me the physical book, because I read an audiobook, so yeah. And the longest one, guess what? Also Harry Potter. I did my first reread of Harry Potter series last year. Last and previous year, I don't know, it started in the autumn and I finished in last year in January, February. Yeah, so the longest book that I read last year was Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. It was 598 pages in Lithuanian. The most popular book that I read was also Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, and the least popular book that I read was an audiobook. It was a Stephen Fry's Victorian Secrets. I remember that one. I really liked it, and I was listening to it while I was doing my bullet journal. And it's a non-fiction book, so it had so many interesting and crazy things that whatever you can think about when you think about Victorian times, asylums, scandals, all the weirdest things, you know, romance, sexuality, African Victorians, yeah, all that crazy stuff. And yeah, it was really good. One of my favorites from last year. Also, I challenged myself to read 2 books that are collections. First one was Hermann Hesse. This is Reading for Minutes, I think. And it's a collection of short quotes, excerpts from some letters and stuff. So I was supposed to read it every day for 2-3 quotes, and I was doing pretty good for the first part of the year, and then I stopped around here, so it's 1/3 left. You see, I made some tags as well because I liked some quotes. Also, I had this other chunker of a book as a challenge. The Complete Tales and Poems of Edgar Allan Poe. It has beautiful silver gilded edges. Yeah, it's a leather-bound edition, and I was also challenging myself to read that through the whole year, but I managed to go through all the poetry, but I stopped around here, so yeah. I think I will challenge myself again. Maybe this time I will manage this. This is more than 1,000 pages, so that would be an achievement to finish this chunker. My average rating on Goodreads last year was 4.1, so that's not bad at all. I think there were lots of books that had 4 stars, so we will get to that quickly. I think I will do all the star ratings from 1 to 5 stars, so it will be easier to follow what I liked and I didn't. Okay, 1 star books. Thank goodness I have none, because I always try to look for something positive in a book that when I read, and usually if I don't find that, I just DNF them. So that's why you will probably never find 1 star books in my ratings. As I said, yeah, I try to look for good things. 2 stars. And oh boy, we have one. Just one, and that is Shadow and Bone by Leigh Bardugo. So it was actually a little awkward rating it that low, because I started reading from Six of Crows, not from the Grisha trilogy, and I really liked Six of Crows. It has a highest rating on my read books, and this one, it was a disappointment. So I started reading Leigh Bardugo's books only last year, just because I bought a bunch of them. I gave up on waiting for Six of Crows to be translated in my language and just bought it online from UK. And also I bought Crooked Kingdom, King of Scars, and I had Shadow and Bone bought before. It was somewhere on my shelves, but I never read it. Then I noticed that there's a second one on sale. I also bought it, but I knew that I might get myself into trouble because the third book was not translated at that time, and I was still waiting if it's gonna happen or not. I think this is a specific problem with our book industry, that it's a bad tendency lately for a couple of years now, that some of the better books that get first book published in Lithuanian, and the next ones in the series, usually they don't. I have a few that are not translated. Not all of the series are translated. I've been waiting for some of them to be translated for a long while, and yeah, it's a whole another story. I read Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom during a readathon, and I really loved those books, and I wanted to get back to Shadow and Bone because I noticed that Netflix is gonna do a TV series, and yeah, I'm really looking forward to see Kaz Brekker, and I decided that I have to read Shadow and Bone now because I want to know what happened in Ravka, because there were lots of mentionings in the Six of Crows duology, but I didn't know what happened, so I had to find out. And this book was a disappointment. I don't really know what is so bad about it. Maybe it's the translation. I noticed that it's kind of jumping between present tense and past tense, and that is a little bit annoying. Maybe that is the problem. Of course, the story itself has some flaws, and maybe because, you know, you have an evil guy with the most obvious evil name, Darkling, come on, that is just stupid. That's one of the things I don't like about these books, because I see that they are inspired, well, at least the names and some stuff is inspired by Slavic cultures like Russian and stuff, but come on, calling some of the characters like Darkling, it's call them, I don't know, Dimitri or something. And yeah, literally, I'm just speechless, and I'm actually happy that the Netflix or whatever the company is making this TV series happen, that they renamed the main bad guy as General Kirigan, because it sounds much better than Darkling, and at least it's not that much in your face. Also, I think one thing that bothered me was that most of the stuff was happening to the main character, and not because she decided to do some stuff or that she wanted to do something. Everything was happening around her and because of her being there, but not exactly influenced by her actions. And maybe that's a difference with the Six of Crows, because in Six of Crows there's lots of action and all the characters are influencing the story and the flow and what is happening in there. So maybe that was one of those things that really annoyed me, and that's why it got only 2 stars. At the moment I'm reading the second book, Storm and Siege, and luckily the third one was just translated recently. I bought it instantly because I know it might be gone, so I'm happy about that. But I think I will be one of those few people that actually likes Mal, this Malian guy, the romantic interest of the main character. I think I know why most of the people don't like him, because you don't really see why the main character is loving this guy. Why is she in love so much? Why is she whining so much about him all the time? Yeah, so it might be one of those reasons that this book was, for me, was a miss. I really wish that Bardugo used his full name, because it's much nicer, Malian. It's so interesting. It would sound less alien to this world. Yeah, and the second book is so slow and I can't even force myself to pick it up. I'm almost at the end and I'm still reading it. I've been reading to December and now January, and I'm still not finished, and I still have a third book. I don't know how I'm gonna finish it. I hope the third one will be much faster pacing and more action is gonna happen. So, and I actually really love Nikolai, this as I understand, the King of Scars. So yeah, looking forward to getting into that one. Okay, so this turned out the rant about Grisha verse trilogy, so let's move on. 3 stars. I have a few. First I will maybe do a list and then talk a little bit about, not all of them, but just mention my favorites, or yeah. So audiobooks, Rivals, Frenemies Who Changed the World by Scott McCormick, Caffeine by Michael Pollan, The Switch by Beth O'Leary, and then physical books, Sea Witch by Sarah Henning, and Follow Me to Ground by Sue Rainsford. I don't remember much about the first 2. Other than that they were non-fiction. And then The Switch. I liked Grandma's point of view, and Lena, Grandma was Aileen and Lena was the young girl. So yeah, I liked the Grandma's point of view. I didn't like that much of the younger girls. I didn't really like narrator for Aileen. The book was nice and warm and wholesome, but it had many cliches, many things that you could just see miles away coming. So everything that happened in the book basically was said in the synopsis. You didn't really know anything new about, nothing really new happens. Yeah, so it was a good book, but compared to, you know, gems that get 5 stars, this was just average, so I gave it 3 stars. I must say something about Follow Me to Ground. That book, it was the last review of mine on 2020. I don't know why I didn't write anymore, because I read some books afterwards, but maybe because it was quite disturbing and medically graphic, and it wasn't that spooky as it was advertised as a spooky book. Yeah, I don't really remember what happened there. It had some good moments, I think, and I know I wrote down that I could see the plot twist coming miles away, even though I don't remember what happened in the book. So yeah, it was, for me it was average. I'll try not to talk too much about each of the books, so I'll just talk about the ones that I remember and have something to say. Now moving to 4 stars, and here we have a bigger list. I think it's the biggest chunk of the books for my 2020 review. Let's see. The Afterlife of Holly Chase by Cynthia Hand, an audiobook. The Witches Are Coming by Lindy West, audiobook. A Brief History of Time by Stephen Hawking. Journey to the Center of the Earth by Jules Verne. An Arrangement of Sorts by Rebecca Connolly, an audiobook. The Tales of Beadle the Bard by J.K. Rowling, audiobook. Serpent and Dove by Shelby Mahurin. A Curse So Dark and Lonely, and A Heart So Fierce and Broken by Brigitte Kemmerer. Moti on the Water by Leah Attar, audiobook. The City of Brass by S.A. Chakraborty, an audiobook. Crooked Kingdom by Leigh Bardugo. Henrietta and Eleanor, a retelling of Jekyll and Hyde, an audiobook adapted by Libby Spurrier, and lots of good narrators. Next Year in Havana by Chanel Clayton. The Wedding Date by Zara Stoneley, and Descender Volume 5, Rise of the Robots by Jeff Lemire. Honestly, I rated all the Descender comics 5 stars. I'm not sure what happened with this 5th one. Maybe because of artwork, maybe some cheesy stuff happened, I don't know, but it was just one that kind of stood out as a little less interesting. So I don't know, maybe I just didn't like what happened in the book. I can't really remember what happened. I read it a few months ago and my memory is not that good, so yeah. Moving on. I think I had a pretty good year reading wise. As you can see, lots of books were rated 4 stars and I have at least a few 5-star books. And if I had to pick out 1 or 2 that I have to talk about from those books, I would definitely have to mention Brigitte Kemmerer's books. I really loved the characters, and her writing style is so easy to follow. It's quite simple, and especially I love Gray as a character. That guy's... he's on another level. And the chemistry with Harper in the first book and the second book made me love him even more, even though those books have some cliches, and the plot twist on the second and the end of the second book just basically ruined the whole build-up. But I hope she's gonna redeem herself in the last one, so I'm really looking forward to read it. And yeah. I also really loved The Wedding Date by Zara Stoneley. I think I picked it up at a very good time. At that moment I really needed something lighthearted, and that book was just perfect timing. I remember that I was giggling and at times and even laughing out loud, and I love these kind of romance books that make me feel warm and fuzzy inside and giggle, and everyone is looking at you while you're giggling, but those kind of books are really nice. Moti on the Water was also very good. I remember I was laughing out loud a few times, and I listened it as an audiobook. Yeah, it was really fun, and the narrators were really good. I picked it up because I liked Leila Attar's other book, Mists of the Serengeti. I think that book was Goodreads Choice Award something a winner I think. That book was something. From non-fiction I have to mention Stephen Hawking. Of course, that person was a hero to the scientific community and to the science lovers like me. I don't know why I never chose to study something like astrophysics or something. I always loved stars, I always was fascinated by space and all the, astronomy and time, supermassive black holes, everything like that. And yeah, Stephen Hawking was one of my heroes, I would say. As a person, he had a very interesting life. And that book, The Brief History of Time, it's written so easily that even a person who didn't study all these things can start to grasp, start to understand these difficult concepts in our world. And I think I would recommend that book to read for everyone. It's a must read for anyone who is interested in science, because it sparks a curiosity to look deeper and to bend what is normal, to look behind what is normal. Because when you look at the level of particles, or at the level of the whole space of the universe, of the space-time and stuff, nothing is normal anymore. Or yeah, I'm just philosophically rambling right now, but that's how much I love this book. And here we are, 5 stars. At the end of 2019 and beginning of 2020, I was rereading Harry Potter books for the very first time after, I think, maybe 10 years after I read all of them. Usually I don't do that, and those were the first ones I ever reread. So in 2020 I read the last 2 books, and of course they are there at the top. I know that it's a nostalgia thing and stuff, and all of the books have flaws, but I remember at least the 6th book as one of my favorites from the whole series. I think it still stands up to this day, and yeah. And then we have more books, yay! Here goes the list. Becoming by Michelle Obama, audiobook. Descender, Volume 2, 3, 4 and 6. First one I read in 2019, so it's not here. 6 of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. Stephen Fry's Victorian Secrets, actually written by John Wolfe, an audiobook. And my absolute favorite of 2020 is The Sandman by Neil Gaiman. So that's the list of 2020. You will not believe, but I never read anything else from Neil Gaiman, and I regret that. Publishers only recently started releasing some of his books, and I'm really happy about it, because when I listened to the Sandman audiobook, I was enchanted, I was in trance, I was in love. That was a whole new experience for me, to listen to an audiobook like that. I really fell in love with it instantly. It was my first ever Neil Gaiman book that I read, and I'm happy that I had it because it's, as I said, my top favorite of 2020. It's a beautifully done audiobook. It's full of crazy good cast. I think it's around 100 people who work there. It has lots of sound effects, it has music, it has an amazing ambience and a great narration by the author himself. But what I love the most, what I fell in love the most, James McAvoy. It had to be said. James McAvoy as Morpheus, as the main character, the Sandman himself, that voice is divine. I was in shock, I was in trance, I was enchanted, I fell in love the moment I heard that voice, and I don't know, I'm speechless right now. If this was made into a movie or a TV series and if he was playing Morpheus there, I would be fangirling like a teenager again all over. Yeah, that voice is something else, and I'm speechless, seriously. I never saw the comics which this book is based upon. I don't think comics are that popular in Lithuania. Maybe they were at some point, but I don't know if the Sandman was ever translated or printed here, so I think that's why I never got into anything like comics before. But now I'm interested as I was reading Descender and stuff, and I would love to get my hands on the Sandman comics. So we'll see about that. The only annoying thing about this audiobook was this announcer voice that was after each chapter or this short story. It was announcing and reminding you that you are watching The Sandman by Neil Gaiman. Other than that, if you haven't listened to this audiobook, then what are you waiting for? I don't know. If you love this kind of stuff, go and get it. What are you waiting for? So this book is actually one of those that I would gladly reread or actually re-listen in this case. As I mentioned, I don't do rereads at all. I think it's a waste of time because there's way too many books and not so much time to read them all, so why would you read something that you already know when you have a bunch of books waiting for you to be read? The first one I did Harry Potter just recently, and on this reread shelf I also would have another one that I would like to reread sometime. That is The Burial Rites by Hannah Kent. And now The Sandman by Neil Gaiman is proudly on that shelf too. Overall, looking at the 2020, The Sandman is a total winner for me. It might be hard to top up because this kind of experience comes very rarely, and you cannot get the same while you're reading a physical book, because audiobook like that with all the ambience, with all the different voices and music and sound effects, everything, it's just a different kind of experience. So that was my books read in 2020. I hope you enjoyed this review as much as I did. Let me know in the comments down below what were your favorites, if you had any misses, maybe you didn't DNF'd something, maybe I should avoid some kind of books. So yeah, let's chat in the comments, and I will see you very soon in the next video. Bye bye!